guys, welcome back to the Pottery at Home series. Except this time we're not at home, we're in my studio. So today I want to teach you what you can do when you make something that you don't want to keep so that you don't waste your clay. So here I've made this bowl and I'm thinking, nah, not going to keep this, it's not for me. So I'm going to wedge the clay in order to reclaim this clay. So in order to do this, you will need some cloth. If you try and do this right on your table, especially if it's sealed with something, so if it's glass or sealed wood, it's going to stick to the table. So you will need to put down some cloth. I have here some cloth that's wrapped around a wooden board. So this is really handy because then you're not fussing with the cloth the whole time. This is what we use in the studio. We call them wedging boards. I would like to use this, but just a piece of cloth will also work. So when you're wedging, the first thing that you want to do is crush the piece. So first you want to make it into sort of a ball shape. So that's step number one. Step number two is to hold the ball on either side, and then with this bottom part of our hand, we're going to be pushing down and forward. So I'm pushing down at an angle, about 45-degree angle, let's say, into the board. Okay? And now I'm going to lift the clay up and put it on the thin end, put my hands back on top of it so that this part of my hand is again going to push down. So down and forward. You want to make sure you're not squishing your fingers behind the piece. We want the piece to be touching the fabric. So lift your hands up again. Position your hands so that the just middle of your hand is in this sticking out part here. So the outer side of it, and push down and forward. So in real motion, it looks like this. So I lift, reposition my hands, push down. Lift, reposition my hands, push down. This is the shape that we are going for. This is called a ram's head wedging. There's a few different types of wedging, but this is the basic one that you want to start with. So you can imagine it looks sort of like a goat. So you have the horns here and a bit of a beard down here. This is the shape that we're going for. So lift it up, put your hands on the side. Remember to put this end right in the middle of your palm. If you find that you're getting a long kind of sausage shape, that's because your hands are on top of it instead of to the side of it. So you need to keep the ends in your palm so that you can contain it. And the other very important thing to know is that you should be rotating your wrists as you're doing it. So like this. So pick it up, reposition your hands, and watch how my wrist is going to turn here. So it went from straight to turned. This is the only way. If you keep going straight, you're going to push the clay on top of your hands, and that's not going to do anything good. So turning my wrists. Just like that. Here you go. So this is the shape that we're going for. So once you've done this motion about 10 times, we're going to roll it towards you so that you pick up that beard, stick it on its end, start at the top here, and do it 10 more times. So try and make it this fluid motion. It should sort of be this round motion. Did you hear that? That was a bubble being popped. So once you've wedged it 10 times in both directions, you're actually done. So you can start, you can roll it up again and pound it back into a ball. Always nice to start with a ball, no matter what you're making with it. Okay, so what do you do if the clay is a little bit crumbly? Perhaps you made something and let it dry out for an hour and then you decided, oh, let's smash it. You might need to add a little bit of water, so I'll show you how to do that. Now, this is the only time that you want to be adding water. In general, you shouldn't need to be adding water if the clay is still wet. So, all you need to do is take a little bit of water on your fingers. I have a bucket right here. I just took a little bit of water on my fingers and I'm going to stroke the clay with it and just give it a little water there. That's all I want to do. And then I'm going to wedge in the water. If you still feel it's a little too crumbly, just take a little more on your fingers, put it on the clay, and wedge it in again. So mine didn't need water, so it's starting to get really wet. It's not what we want. If you start to see your clay sticking to the board, this is not ideal. So this means our clay is too wet. But the great thing about fabric is it also removes some of the water from the clay. So it's also, if you just wedge it a little bit more, it will take care of it. So why are we doing this? This seems like a very strange thing to do here. Well, it's actually doing two things. Number one, it's removing air from the clay. So this very specific process of turning the clay is kneading it and pushing the air to the outsides of your clay, and therefore eventually it will pop. You might hear a little and that will show you that the air has just escaped from your clay. It's like popping a bubble. Now the other reason that we do this is to mix the clay. So after you've made the piece, the outside of whatever you've made, the bowl or whatever, is drier than the inside of the clay. And so you need to mix the clay in order to equalize the wetness in the clay. When you first get your clay from the studio, it's been processed through an industrial mixer, which means that it's perfect and ready to go. But you can also mimic this action with your hands by doing this wedging process. Also, you might want to do this if your clay has been sitting in its bag for over a month, say. Maybe it's dried out a little bit. That means that the outside of the clay will be drier than the inside of the clay, and you will find that it's much, much easier to work with when you've mixed it well. An added benefit of this is that as you're wedging your clay, your hands are warming the clay, and it becomes more fluid and almost luscious to work with. So it's really definitely a good habit to get into, to start wedging your clay. Even if you're using fresh clay, it might be useful depending on the process that you're doing. Okay guys, that's all I wanted to show you for today. In the next video, I'm going to show you what to do when you've made something and you don't want to keep it, but it's dried out. Now, wedging will not work for that, but the next process will. So, stay tuned. Of water. You don't need me? Well, I don't remember. You know, I got this little nose sticking out.